What is most precious in this life is not wealth, nor fame, nor power, nor the glittering honors the world so tirelessly pursues. It is not the applause of the crowd, nor the titles engraved upon our names, nor the possessions gathered through restless striving. These things may dazzle the eyes for a season, but they do not endure. They arrive with noise and often depart in silence. They may decorate a life, but they do not define it. The truest treasure lies elsewhere. It lies in the heart we cultivate when no one is watching. It lies in the conscience we protect when temptation is near. It lies in the character we refine through suffering, restraint, humility, and love. It lies in the quiet depth of the soul, that invisible sanctuary within us where all true worth is born. A person's value is not measured by what they own, but by what remains within them when everything external has been stripped away. Money can be lost, status can fade, beauty can wither, youth can depart without farewell, praise can become indifference, and admiration can turn into forgetfulness. The world is fickle in what it celebrates, but a sincere heart, a gentle spirit, a mind that has learned wisdom, and a life rooted in goodness, these are riches that no thief can steal and no passage of time can erase. There are people who appear successful in the eyes of the world and yet live in deep poverty within themselves. They possess abundance, but not peace. They are surrounded by noise, but know no stillness. They are praised, but not loved. They have acquired much, but cultivated little. And so, beneath the polished surface of their lives, there remains a hunger no possession can satisfy. For the soul does not feed on achievement. It feeds on truth. It feeds on tenderness. It feeds on meaning. It feeds on the quiet knowledge that one has lived in a way that does not betray the heart. To live well, one must first learn sincerity. Be honest in intention. Be whole in feeling. Be simple in conduct. Be clear in spirit. Do not calculate too much, for a heart that is always scheming becomes tired before it becomes wise. There is a kind of cleverness that the world admires, but it often comes at a hidden cost. It may win advantages, secure opportunities, avoid losses, and protect one's interests. Yet in doing so, it can slowly harden the heart. A person who lives by constant calculation begins to see every encounter as a transaction, every kindness as leverage, every relationship as negotiation. Such a person may become skillful, but seldom peaceful. There is a difference between intelligence and cunning. Intelligence illuminates, cunning corrodes. Intelligence helps us understand life more deeply. Cunning teaches us how to outmaneuver others while slowly losing ourselves. Excessive cleverness may win small victories, but it often costs the soul its innocence. And once innocence is gone, it is not easily restored. In all things, leave room for kindness. In action, leave a path of return. In speech, leave a little mercy. In judgment, leave space for understanding. In conflict, leave an opening for reconciliation. A person who corners others too harshly will one day find themselves cornered by life. A person who speaks without restraint will one day be wounded by the echo of their own voice. Words spoken in haste often remain long after anger has passed. A careless sentence can chill a warm heart. A cold glance can undo years of tenderness. A moment of pride can break what love spent years building. A single cruel word uttered in an unguarded moment can become a memory someone carries for the rest of their life. Words are among the strangest and most powerful forces in human life. They are invisible, and yet they can change destinies. They are weightless, and yet they can crush the spirit. They can be bridges or blades, shelter or storm, medicine or poison. A gentle word spoken at the right moment can rescue someone from despair. A harsh word spoken carelessly can become the beginning of estrangement, bitterness, or lifelong pain. There are wounds that bleed openly, and there are wounds that do not. The latter are often deeper. A bruise on the body eventually fades. A wound in the heart may continue breathing in silence for years. Time may close the surface of an injury, but scars remain. And scars, though quiet, remember. They do not always cry out, but they ache when touched. They do not always demand attention, but they can awaken suddenly in a tone of voice, a familiar phrase, a remembered look, a silence that feels too much like an old abandonment. The body forgets less than we imagine. The heart forgets even less. This is why one must learn gentleness. Speak gently. Even in humor, keep measure. Even in truth, keep tenderness. Even in correction, keep dignity. Even in disappointment, keep compassion. The mouth was not given to humiliate, divide, or destroy. It was given to nourish, to comfort, to bless, to confess, to console, and, when needed, to tell the truth without cruelty. Not every truth must be sharpened. Not every honesty must become a weapon. There is a kind of honesty that liberates, and there is a kind that merely wounds while pretending to be virtue. Wisdom is knowing the difference. No one in this world is perfect. Every person carries brightness and shadow, strength and weakness, courage and fear, beauty and brokenness. Every smiling face hides a private weather the world does not see. Every confident voice may conceal an unspoken trembling. Every human being is, in some hidden way, unfinished. And because we are all unfinished, we should be careful with judgment. Do not use your own standard to measure another person's life. Do not use your own wounds to interpret another's choices. Do not use your limited understanding to pronounce final verdicts on another's soul. Before laughing at someone's flaw, look inward. Before condemning another's mistake, remember how many times you yourself have stumbled in silence, been forgiven in secret, or been spared the humiliation of being fully seen. There are things about you that others have chosen not to expose. There are failures you survived only because mercy met you before justice did. Humility begins when we remember this. The eyes were given to see beauty, not merely to search for faults. The heart was given to understand, not only to compare. Yet many people spend their lives looking outward in restlessness, scanning for what others have, how others appear, what others lack, where others fail. Such a way of living gradually turns the soul sour. Comparison steals gratitude. Judgment kills tenderness. Constant fault-finding blinds us to wonder. If we train ourselves to notice only what is broken, then even a beautiful life will begin to seem unbearable. But if we learn to see clearly, not naively, not sentimentally, but clearly, then we begin to understand that beauty and imperfection are not enemies. In fact, they often belong to one another. A weathered face may be more beautiful than an untouched one because it has learned compassion. A quiet person may be more luminous than a celebrated one because they have learned depth. A heart that has suffered and remained kind shines with a light the world cannot manufacture. There are things in life that, once they happen, can only be accepted. There are words that, once spoken, cannot be unsaid. There are departures that, once they happen, cannot be undone. There are roads that, once chosen, cannot be walked backward. There are seasons that end without asking our permission. Such is the law of impermanence. We live in a world where everything moves. Days, bodies, relationships, beliefs, homes, seasons, identities, even the self we thought we knew. Nothing remains fixed for long. The very nature of life is motion. Yet the human heart often longs for permanence. It wants certainty in a world built from change. It wants lasting possession in a realm governed by passing. It wants guarantees where none can be given. And so much of our suffering begins there. We suffer not only because things change, but because we demand that they should not. Not everything lost is a tragedy. Sometimes what leaves us also frees us. Sometimes what breaks our heart also opens our eyes. Sometimes what does not stay was never meant to remain. Sometimes the hand that lets go is not betraying us, but returning us to ourselves. There are losses that diminish us for a time, and there are losses that save us for a lifetime. Some pains need only patience, and they pass. Some burdens need only to be set down, and peace returns. Some arguments need only silence, and they dissolve. Some people need only distance, and the heart becomes light again. It is not always strength to hold on. Sometimes it is fear. Sometimes it is habit. Sometimes it is attachment dressed in noble language. There are moments when the most courageous act is not persistence, but release. To let go without hatred is a rare form of maturity. To bless what cannot stay is a rare form of love. True love is not always loud. It does not always need grand declarations, dramatic promises, or endless proof. The deepest love often walks quietly beside us through the years. It is not possession, it is not control, it is not fear disguised as devotion. It does not suffocate in the name of closeness. It does not bind in the name of care. It does not wound in the name of honesty. True love gives space. True love gives peace. True love gives freedom. Love that must constantly announce itself often does not yet trust its own roots. Love that demands constant reassurance is often more anxious than deep. Love that clings too tightly may not be love at all, but fear of loss wearing the mask of affection. The highest form of love does not ask, "How can I keep you?" It asks, "How can I honor what is true between us?" If two people are truly meant for one another, time and distance cannot easily separate them. If they are not, then even daily closeness will not make the bond real. Proximity is not intimacy. Frequency is not depth. Presence is not always connection. Some people stand beside us for years without ever truly seeing us. Others pass briefly through our lives and leave behind a clarity that changes us forever. We often believe we only understand the value of something after losing it. But perhaps the truth is gentler and sadder. Perhaps we knew its value all along. We simply believed it would never leave. We assumed the morning would always return in the same way. We assumed the familiar voice would always be there. We assumed the ordinary meal, the shared silence, the hand that stayed, the person who listened, the small rituals of daily life. We assumed these belonged to us by right. But nothing belongs to us in that way. Everything is borrowed. Everything is entrusted. Everything is passing through our hands. This is why the small things matter so much. The quiet morning, the light on the wall, the cup of tea cooling beside a loved one, the ordinary conversation, the person who remembers how you take your sadness, the familiar footsteps in the next room, the laughter that rises unexpectedly in an unremarkable hour. One day, memory gathers these fragments and we realize that nothing was small. The ordinary was sacred. The simple was enough. The life we were rushing through was, in fact, the life we had prayed for. To live simply is to live deeply. And yet, human beings so often make life heavy with desire. We think too much, compare too much, want too much, fear too much, defend too much, regret too much. We hold what should be released and neglect what should be cherished. We spend ourselves in restlessness and call it ambition. We lose our peace in the pursuit of things that, once attained, often do not know how to love us back. Life asks for courage, yes, but it also asks for softness. What must be held, hold with gratitude. What must be released, release with grace. What must end, allow it to end. What must begin, welcome without fear. What must be endured, endure without becoming hard. What must be forgiven, forgive before bitterness takes root. Only then can the new begin. Life is like a piano. The white keys are joy, the black keys are sorrow. But only when both are played together does music arise. A life without pain may appear beautiful, but it often lacks depth. It is sorrow that teaches tenderness. It is loss that teaches gratitude. It is failure that teaches humility. It is uncertainty that teaches surrender. It is heartbreak that teaches us the difference between attachment and love. Do not run from hardship. No one becomes wise by living only in comfort. A person matures by walking through storms, by enduring confusion, by surviving disappointment without becoming cynical, by learning to remain kind after betrayal, by standing up again after life has humbled them. The road may be uneven, but every step has its lesson. There are truths the mind cannot learn in ease. They must be carved into the soul by experience. The strongest people are not those who have never suffered. They are those who have suffered deeply and refused to become cruel. We are born because we cannot refuse to come. We leave because we cannot refuse to go. Between birth and death lies the only freedom we truly have, the way we choose to live. That middle portion, brief, uncertain, often beautiful, often painful, is where meaning is made. Some live for wealth, pride, rivalry, and possession. Others live by gratitude, contentment, compassion, and peace. Each choice becomes a road. Each rut becomes a life. And in time, each life becomes a teaching. When we are young, we imagine we need many things. We believe happiness lies in accumulation, more recognition, more certainty, more love, more success, more proof that we matter. But illness, loss, and time are stern teachers. They strip illusion with quiet authority. On a sickbed, ambition grows quiet. Pride becomes meaningless. Competition becomes absurd. The need to appear impressive evaporates. The only true wealth is breath, health, peace, and the presence of those who love us without performance. Therefore, while you are still able, care for yourself. Care for your body, which carries you. Care for your mind, which shapes your world. Care for your spirit, which makes life worth living. Live the life your heart can respect. Do not postpone your own becoming until after the world has finished with you, for the world is never finished asking. The world is not perfect, and it was never meant to be. The sun reaches noon only to begin its descent. The moon becomes full only to begin waning. A flower is often most beautiful just before it blooms completely. The loveliest things in life are often suspended between arrival and departure. There is beauty in incompletion. There is grace in what is unfinished. There is a strange holiness in the almost, the not yet, the fading, the tenderly temporary. Perhaps imperfection is not the failure of life, but its most honest form. To accept is not to surrender weakly, it is to understand deeply. The one who knows how to bow does not strike their head against the doorway. The one who knows how to step aside need not spend life in endless conflict. The one who knows how to yield at the right time preserves strength for what truly matters. We have only this one life. Once it passes, it cannot be lived again. Time is short. Life is more precious than gold. Do not spend it half awake. Do not drift through your own existence as though you are waiting for permission to begin. In a world that runs faster each day, many people chase material things and forget to sit quietly with their own hearts. Desire multiplies, but peace grows rare. People collect possessions and lose presence. They accumulate contacts and lose intimacy. They gather information and lose wisdom. They gain access to everything and remain strangers to themselves. Yet within every person remains a seed of goodness, a clear and original kindness, something untouched by ambition, before comparison, before fear, before all the noise. To return to that seed is to return to oneself. To sit quietly enough to hear it again is one of the most sacred acts a person can undertake. True wealth is wealth of the soul. True happiness is not merely to receive joy, but to rejoice in the joy of others. If you wish to receive, first learn to give. If you wish to be loved, first learn to love without greed. If you wish to be understood, first learn to understand without rushing to correct. If you wish for peace, first stop making war inside yourself. No one enters our life by accident. Every person arrives as carrying a lesson. Some teach us tenderness. Some teach us boundaries. Some teach us patience. Some teach us forgiveness. Some teach us how to let go. Some stay. Some leave. Some heal. Some wound. Some do all of these at once. The road opens where it must. The people we meet, the pain we endure, the love we lose, the grace we receive, all become part of our awakening. Even those who hurt us are sometimes unwilling teachers. Even those who leave us sometimes return us to the parts of ourselves we had abandoned in order to keep them. At some point, each of us must walk alone through a season where no one helps, no one understands, and no one asks if we are all right. But those lonely seasons can make the spirit strong. Hardship does not always come to destroy us. Sometimes it comes to deepen us. Sometimes it removes what is false. Sometimes it forces us to become the shelter we once begged others to be. Everything passes. Dreams flare like lamps and fade. Love falls like rain and dries. Friends gather like clouds and scatter. Grief intoxicates like wine, and one day we awaken. If we can receive life with gratitude, even suffering becomes nourishment. Pain can become soil. From that soil, wisdom can grow. And from wisdom, compassion flowers. A person who has suffered deeply and truly understood their suffering becomes less likely to wound others carelessly. They know the weight of words. They know the cost of neglect. They know what loneliness tastes like. They know how a single act of tenderness can save a life. Life is a book. Some pages are bright, some are heavy, some are torn by grief, some shine with joy, some are written in certainty, some in bewilderment, some in longing, some in gratitude. If every page were the same, the story would have no soul. It is because we have known sorrow that happiness becomes precious. It is because we have lost that we learn how to treasure. It is because we have failed that humility becomes real. It is because we have broken that compassion becomes possible. As children, happiness is simple. As adults, simplicity becomes happiness. Do good while you can. Love what is wholesome. Speak what is true. Forgive what can be forgiven. Release what must be released. Do not carry every memory like a stone. Some people belong to yesterday. Some pain belongs to the road already walked. Some stories are meant to be honored, not relived. Yesterday cannot return. Tomorrow will still come. This moment is the only place life can actually be touched. A young man once asked a Zen master, "How can I become joyful and bring joy to others?" The master replied, "First, regard yourself as another. This is selflessness. Second, regard another as yourself. This is compassion. Third, regard another as themselves. This is wisdom. Fourth, regard yourself as yourself. This is freedom." Contained in these few lines is an entire philosophy of living. To regard yourself as another is to loosen the grip of ego. It is to stop treating your own feelings as the center of all things. It is to step outside the prison of self-importance. To regard another as yourself is compassion. To recognize that their fear feels like fear, their grief feels like grief, their longing feels like longing, even if you do not share its cause. To regard another as themselves is wisdom, not to project your own needs, wounds, or assumptions onto them, but to honor their distinct reality. And to regard yourself as yourself is freedom, not self-obsession, but rightful being, the ability to stand in your own life without apology, illusion, or dependence on constant approval. Perhaps this is the path of a peaceful life. To be humble without self-erasure, loving without possession, clear without cruelty, strong without hardness, and free without indifference. Do not insist on always being right. Even the earth is always turning. If you are truly gold, you do not need to announce your shine. In hardship, remember to smile. In urgency, remember gentleness. In exhaustion, remember to love yourself. Not indulgently, but faithfully, as one would tend a lamp that must continue burning through the night. Help when you can. Give when you can. Do not count too carefully. Do not demand repayment. A meaningful life is not measured by what it gathers, but by what it gives. Some of the most beautiful people in this world are those who have little and still offer much. A listening ear, a warm meal, a kind word, a place to rest, a small mercy given without witness. To choose sincerity is not weakness. To choose kindness is not foolishness. To choose patience is not defeat. To choose forgiveness is not cowardice. To choose softness in a hard world is not naivety. It is moral courage. Sometimes the highest wisdom is knowing that not everything deserves a battle. A step back can reveal a wider sky. A moment of yielding can preserve a lifetime of peace. There are wars that cannot be won because they should never have been entered. There are victories that cost too much. There are arguments in which even triumph becomes a form of loss. And then, slowly, if we are fortunate, life teaches us a quieter kind of strength. Not the strength to dominate, not the strength to be admired, not the strength to be invulnerable, but the strength to remain human, to remain gentle without becoming weak, to remain clear without becoming cold, to remain loving without becoming blind, to remain hopeful without denying reality, to remain open without surrendering discernment, to remain awake in a world that constantly invites numbness. In the end, life is like wind. It rises, passes through and disappears. We come from dust and return to dust. Joy and sorrow, gain and loss, meeting and separation, all are passing clouds in the vast sky of existence. We spend so much of our time clinging to form that cannot remain. Yet all along, life has been whispering the same lesson. Hold lightly, love deeply, release gracefully. What remains is quieter. The kindness we gave, the pain we transformed, the peace we cultivated, the love we released without bitterness, the forgiveness we chose when resentment was easier, the silence we protected in a noisy age, the truth we lived when performance was more profitable, the grace with which we learned to live among impermanent things. So live gently, speak carefully, love without possession, give without keeping score, forgive without humiliation, let go without resentment, rest without guilt, serve without pride, listen without preparing to defend yourself. Walk through sorrow without worshipping it. Walk through joy without trying to cage it. And when the world becomes loud, when ambition shouts, when fear multiplies, when comparison poisons the heart, when the speed of life begins to separate you from yourself, protect a small stillness within. Return to it often. Sit with it faithfully. Let it become your inner home. For that stillness, clear, compassionate, and awake, is the only wealth no one can take away. And perhaps, in the final accounting of a human life, nothing else will matter more.